Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Henry Galliot, and this is going to be more of a shorter episode, but I have with me a special guest, Slickmof. He has his own YouTube channel. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you, Henry?
Doing fantastic, my man. This has been something I've wanted to do for quite a while here, talking about the superhero genre, because my channel has been more about movies and TV, and I wanted to get back to the roots a little bit, because that's kind of my favorite genre. But I try to balance it out with like other stuff as well. But yeah, and you're like a more of a comic book person yourself, and I was gonna have somebody else on, but that didn't work out here. But I have you instead, and that's even better because we'll have like a more hands-on discussion there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been on YouTube. I My channel really blew up in 2015 with Batman Arkham Knight. I don't know how deep you are into the superhero video game genre, but my channel really blew up around that time frame, around the more superhero video game sort of thing. And now I talk about movies, video games, and particularly with an emphasis on the comic book genre, graphic novels, films based upon graphic novels, and obviously the big blockbuster films from DC and Marvel. So that's kind of my channel.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Yeah, for me, guys, myself, my filmmaking stuff really got started in the superhero genre, and I kind of used my superhero genre knowledge to sort of expand my cinema horizons. That's what I do. Like, I'm more of a Marvel fan, but a DC fan. But I really love DC films still quite a lot. And yeah, so we're gonna talk about the superhero genre as a whole now, because I think me and you have like two polar opposite viewpoints, and I think that's like a really going to be very interesting discussion, because I see where you're coming from, and maybe you don't know what my viewpoint is, but yeah. So like, let's start off with your thoughts on the whole genre as a whole right now, like movies and TV, in your opinion.
Yeah, so my thoughts, broadly speaking, are that I think the industry with the comic book film genre is kind of in decline. And what points me to that is the excitement and hype around films. You can follow like Google Trends, Google Analytics, and that sort of thing, of just search results in 2016 is something that I really point to, and something that I use to sort of make this argument. If we look at 2016, in February of 2016, Deadpool came out. It was a highly revered film that many people wanted to see, extremely funny. And there was a lot of hype leading up to it, and people were looking forward to it. Then in March, Batman v Superman hit the silver screen, and Batman and Superman, two of the most iconic fictional characters ever created in recent centuries, frankly, clashed on the big screen for the first time, which was a huge landmark cinematic event. And then Marvel in May dropped their version of Batman v Superman, which is on an even bigger scale, because rather than just being Captain America versus Iron Man, the scale was even larger, with the entire MCU was at war, which was a really fun and engaging film that, again, everybody was really excited for going into it. Then Margot Robbie debuted as Harley Quinn in August, as well as a brand new Joker. So I think that 2016 is emblematic of of probably the peak of comic book films. And even though those films weren't all great, and even though X-Men Apocalypse wasn't great, and even though all these things may be true, the reality of it is that people were incredibly excited for these films. And now, I specifically, I look at MCU Phase 4, and I just don't see any films that I think are overly exciting or riveting. Now, do I think MCU Phase 5 is going to be amazing? Absolutely, I do. But the problem is, now we're in this period wherein it's almost like this weird transitional growth period, where we're getting these random C-list solo movies, and there's not any. I don't think there's a great way to generate the same level of excitement as films had in the past. So this is not to say I'm not going to see all these comic book films. It's not to say that I think that they are going to be bad films. I think that they'll actually be just like every other Marvel movie, and at least at bare minimum average. I mean, take your least favorite Marvel film, it probably is still at least watchable, and enjoyable. So Marvel has a tried and true method and model, and I think the other part of it, going back to the MCU side of things, I think that um, overall, I don't think that they have been too creative with their format and formula. I think that they need to experiment in some bold new directions. And to be fair to them, on the television side, they have done this a little bit, in terms of experimenting with new shows and plot premises, etc. But I'm speaking specifically about the film side of things. So a lot of people will say, well, what about Loki? What about WandaVision? What about all these shows? And I put that as an aside from the films themselves. But yeah, that's kind of my position. Broadly speaking, I'm always looking forward to the next comic book and superhero film, but I do kind of notice a palpable sense, being a YouTuber, and just reading the vibe of the room. And also, I have many other friends that are some of the largest content creators on the platform in this subgenre of content. And views are down across the board on topics related to the MCU and also to some extent as well DC films. So yeah, and this is not exclusive. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but
No,
I'll
dude,
wrap this up here in a
you're
second.
like doing phenomenally well. Like you formatted your like thing like spectacularly. Again, when I had like Scott Mendelson on, he kind of I love him, but he kind of got like he got a little bit long to the point there. But dude, you like are doing like excellent. I'm impressed there. But that's fantastic. That's pretty good.
Thank you, thank you. No, but my final note that I'll end on is just that I do feel as though there are going to be films down the horizon, and there's going to be a resurgence in this genre where we're going to get those films like Endgame and Infinity War and Batman v Superman, where we just are clamoring to go to go to the cinemas. But I don't think Ant Man and the Wasp or Shang Chi is going to be doing that. I think in the next 2 years.
Yeah, actually, so I'm actually gonna get you into my thing here. So, yeah, I think one of the things that like Endgame and DC, and you can totally chime in on this. I mean, Marvel and DC have is that I think they've kind of like had a peak there with like, so like with like Marvel, they have like they like had Infinity War and Endgame, and with DC, they had the Snyder Cut, which I think really divided the fan base of DC, like, to, like, a kind of an alarming degree. It was sort of like, okay, you can disagree with this, but I feel like it's sort of like, in the way of, like, Star Wars, like, when it was, like, The Mandalorian and the sequel trilogy, those fandoms were kinda clashing with each other, and I'm kinda seeing that with, like, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, where, like,
Mhm.
everybody's, like, getting like, "Oh, well," like, not all DC fans. DC fans are fucking awesome. They're great people. I love chatting with them. It's fun to talk to them. But some of the Snyder
They
fans, they're
can be
saying
annoying at times, though.
they could be annoying.
We can be annoying at times.
Oh, yes, us Marvel fans can be pretty annoying too. But yeah, that whole thing with, like, them kind of attacking each other, and I feel like, the MCU as a whole, yeah, I don't think it has, like, a big end game thing, but to be honest with you, I think actually the fact that, like, the Snyder Cut and Infinity War and Endgame are gone, I think the superhero genre and both of them kind of have more room to breathe because the thing that a lot of people don't actually realize about the Eternals or like Shang-Chi or fucking Doctor Strange too is that they got really fucking talented people behind them. Like the first one being Chloe Zhao, who did Nomadland the Writer. And like I've done a lot of research over her the past couple years, and she's like a really talented filmmaker. And also Sam Raimi, you know Sam Raimi, right? He's
Of
doing Doctor
course.
Strange too. He's doing Doctor Strange in Multiverse of Madness. Like,
Yeah,
so
making his, return to the
I know,
Marvel
that's
universe.
crazy.
That's gonna be really cool to
So
see.
so to me, like, and I've already talked about this on a couple podcasts here, but I've actually really adored the Disney Plus shows, and I've actually been a big fan of DC's television stuff as well. So, like, from my perspective, I kinda think they're kinda both on, like, equal footing. I think both of them are, like, freed from, like, the big crossover events, and they can just let their films be the films that they wanna be, and they can Marvel can have, like, a couple, like, side ones there, and DC can have like these really great artsy films, you know, along with like their big crossover stuff there. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. Not to mention the fact that we have like Amazon because of course Jeff Bezos is in everything. He's there. He's like Lex Luthor. He's always there. With
Have you seen that video where he has the robotic arms and he's laughing maniacally of
oh my
Jeff
god.
Bezos? I'll
Oh my
send it to you
god.
after if you haven't
Oh
seen
my
it.
god. I'm terrified. I'm like,
Yeah,
cause
I'll send it to you. He literally looks like Doc Ock, and
yeah.
he, like, laughs maniacally, and he has these, like, robotic arms that he's testing at some, technology expo or something. Lending to your point about him being a supervillain,
Yeah.
but, I think it's becoming more accurate by the day now that he also is the CEO of a, space company.
Oh
He's
shit.
going to outer space, so
It's
anyway, continue. This is
oh,
an aside. Keep going.
oh yeah, definitely, and I kind of find it kind of ironic that like a superhero show in The Boys is like about corporatism and it's owned by Amazon. Just the irony there is just makes me just want to like
Yeah, you're right. That's
cry in the
funny.
bed there. But yeah, The Boys, Invincible, fuck, even Netflix is like doing their interesting stuff here. So I feel like we'll have like the main event stuff coming in the main stuff there, but I feel like we'll have like these side ventures like well, actually not Jupiter Legacy anymore, but that wasn't very good. Like Umbrella
Right.
Academy and stuff like that. The one place that I am not super hyped about is honestly the Sony stuff, but like from a lot of people, my sources that are close to that, like Tom Roppen doesn't really give a shit about that. Like he would much like straight up, he would much rather sell the Spider-Man rights and just focus on like regular movies and like do it because he fucking hates comic book movies. And like the only reason why they have Spider-Man is Amy Pascal, and they're just doing it out of obligation. So I'm just like that part, but I'm not down. But despite the point, I'm gonna give him a chance. So yeah, I think the superhero genre is gonna be fine. It won't be as strong as like Infinity War and Endgame, but it doesn't really have to be. I think a good thing, but and actually I think it's good in a lot of ways. So we can have like other genres of films, like video game movies, horror movies, take the center stage as well, along with the super movies. I think they're gonna do fine, but I think we'll maybe have like a more healthier film environment, in my opinion. But again, what the fuck do I know? Like I'm just like some dork from Washington who has some film connections.
Well, okay, now here's my question for you. Do you feel like the MCU, um, I'll call it a film formula, do you think that it should be evolved? And more importantly, do you think in the last several years it has been evolved? And to this point, I say that they have evolved the format, I think, and particularly with their on the television side. Black Widow to me was a bit of a disappointment because I was expecting them to really take it in bold new directions. And while there's some interesting creative choices in the film, and it revolves around family much more than other films, which I appreciated, and I think there's some interesting themes in the film, and the action is quite strong throughout. I will say that I didn't feel as though um, I, I'm just starting to feel like the formula that Marvel has been running with on the film side needs to be evolved. And one point that I
Oh,
also made
totally.
in my video
I totally agree with you on that
is
part.
that the Marvel films that stand out the most are the ones that deviate the furthest from the traditional MCU films. So like Endgame, you have so many characters coming in, right? And like
Yeah.
it's they're really long. They're not just like 2 to 2.5 hour films, and they're you know much different than the solo films. And then you also look at yeah, Winter Soldier, for instance, more of a noir political thriller than a straight up superhero film. And that paid dividends for it, just like it did with Christopher Nolan in 2008 with The Dark
Yep.
Knight. So I
Totally.
think that that's one thing that I also would love to see from Marvel movies is I want to see an R-rated Marvel film. I want to see um, I want to see really any way to evolve that format. Maybe a straight up comedy film. I don't know. And like I said earlier, I think they've done this more on the television side, and I would love to see them take those experimental
Yeah.
elements into the film side as well.
Totally. I don't think it's a formula, but I do think like at times like some of the small because actually I'm gonna have a couple of hot takes here. My favorite Marvel movies are actually Iron Man 3, the first two Spider-Man movies, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2,
Wait,
and
wait, wait. Which first two Spider-Man movies? Like in the like the
The
MCU,
Homecoming 2.
the
Yeah,
Homecoming one?
those
Okay,
ones to me are like my personal favorite. Those are personal reasons because because I feel like those 2 have been really good, and also, like, the, Black Panther, I thought that was pretty solid there. I think the villain and the main hero conflict there kind of works very well. I would totally agree with you, like, stuff like Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange, I like, but I feel like it's just a setup for Infinity War, and, like,
right.
I think, like, movies like Thor: Ragnarok and, Iron Man 3 have like standalone stories, but they build to like a larger universe thing in a way they kind of balance this too. Those are like the Marvel movies I'm looking forward to. And with Phase 4 so far, I feel like a lot of them have been more Iron Man 3s and Black Panthers and Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 2.
Right.
They've been like Doctor Stranges and Captain Marvels, which I'm sorry, that movie sucked.
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, like
Yeah, it was
I'm not
terrible.
a MCU fanboy as much as people think it is. Like there's like a couple movies that I just don't stand, but yeah, and actually, I think Winter Soldier is good, pretty good, but
Over you think it's overrated?
I think it's a little bit overrated. Actually, my favorite Russo brother movie is actually the Civil War one. I know that's a little bit of a hot take, but I feel like that's like the perfect balance of them like not overcrowding crowding the whole like team thing with like Infinity War, but actually I think their weakest film is honestly Infinity War, if I'm being honest with myself. It's kind of more clunky in spots, but I think Endgame they really like shine there because it's more character driven. I think the best Marvel movies are the ones that are more character driven, and from the stuff I've watched so far, I think the AS4 has been more character driven. That's stuff for me that I've liked there, and as for like the genre bending, I totally agree with you. I think Phase 4 really needs to do more genre bending stuff, and honestly, I think like the fact that the shows have been way better than people give them credit for. I think that may hurt the movies, but Fortunately, to me at
Wait,
least,
how so? How can
uh,
the TV shows hurt the movies?
well, I think if they're, like, better than the movies, then why watch the movies, right? It's like, to me at least, they can kind of, like, because, like, the thing about WandaVision, though it does have, like, a though, like, WandaVision does kind of, like, maybe crumble a little bit in its final act, I still really love the middle episodes where they're sort of, like, talking about that character drama stuff and those sitcom things. I've watched those way more than I have something like Doctor Strange or, fucking, Captain Marvel or
Sure.
Incredible
Mhm.
Hulk there. And actually, here's another hot take. I actually really adored the first Ant-Man. That movie to me is like the perfect blend of a heist movie with like Paul Rudd stuff and like the superhero stuff there, and like the action scenes in that one really just were very creative there. And actually, even the third act of Doctor Strange, I found very fascinating because it was the loop time thing there. It was stuff there, and thing about Black Widow that I felt was a little bit lacking was the third act, but like the
Yeah,
stuff
the 3rd
this
act really was
yeah.
really was the weakest. The 1st act was very strong. I thought very strong. I thought the 2nd act was pretty good, and then I felt the 3rd act was, like, the weakest,
All right.
in my opinion.
Totally. I totally agree with you. Actually, but the best part of that movie to me was actually like that one scene where like Red Guardian was like was like in the fucking bedroom of like Yo Belena Belova with Florence Pugh, who's actually great in the movie. Him sort of
Oh,
singing
she was
that part.
great.
That was like really good there, and I really adored that element of the movie there. I mean, there was elements to it that were pretty good, but to me, it's like the weakest of like the Phase Four stuff. But it's there. But I have a feeling that like Shang-Chi and like into the and the Eternals are gonna surprise people. But actually, speaking of like Spider-Man No Way Home, my buddy Andy Signore broke that
Oh, you
scoop.
know Andy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
funny. I was on his show a couple months ago.
Oh shit, you were?
Yeah, yeah, we were, for Nerd Wars. It
Oh
was really
dude.
fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh, dude, he's way nicer than people give him credit for, man. I mean, he's a pretty badass guy. But yeah, no,
Oh, he's very nice
dude,
guy.
he does DMs. He does a lot of DMs to me sometimes, and I DM him a bunch of stories there. And I can confirm this, but Spider-Man 3 is gonna be fucking wild. I'm not sure if I like everything in there. I mean,
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
there's a couple things there I'm looking forward to, but I just hope it doesn't like because the thing about the MCU Spider-Man stuff that I've loved is that they've matched Peter Parker's high school story drama stuff with like the like MCU stuff, and I kind of worry that like it's gonna balance the stuff there, and I hope it works out there. But to me, I'm way more excited for Chloe Zhao's like Eternals and Daniel Destin Cretton, who did Just Mercy, and there was the other one, Short Term 12, starring Brie Larson, by the way, great movie. And yeah, I don't know, like I'm way more excited for those than I am, like Spider-Man No Way Home. But that's just my opinion. But what do I know, right?
No, yeah, I mean, I think you make some really good points, and on the No Way Home front, I'm honestly that's my most anticipated Phase 4 MCU film. I welcome the insanity of Doc Ock and all these other people showing up from 2002 movies. Bring it
Yeah,
on! I think that's going to be badass.
yeah,
A lot of people are not going to like it. I know my good friend Evan Falarka, big Spidey guy. I think he's not super enthusiastic about the
totally.
film, but I think that there's going to be a lot of really interesting components in it. And that
Okay.
raises a great point that I don't feel this way about every Marvel film.
Oh, totally.
I don't feel this way about every I think it's really just a few, and I think it's also the pacing is that
Oh, totally.
it's fine to have, to have Shang-Chi, and it's fine to have Captain Marvel too, but when it's like they're all in a row together, and I feel like there's a couple of movies in a row that I'm not super excited for, like Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, which again, like you said, Ant-Man and the Wasp 1 is good. I like the
No, and
second
the
one
first
even.
Ant I actually didn't really like the second one. That one to me was just kinda I feel like Peyton Reed had, like, more of, like I feel like Peyton Reed was more creative in the first one than he was the second one, but I hope I but, like, judging by the Loki finale, dude, oh my god, man, Kang like, Jonathan Majors is Kang, spoiler alert, sorry, fuck you, like, the show's been out for, like, 4 days. Kang the Conqueror, him playing that, I was like, "Okay, okay, I'm back into that one." But anyway, I don't wanna get in too much into MCU stuff because, like, you're more of a DC guy, and I don't wanna talk about what you wanna talk about, right? So, Yeah. So what wrap up your thoughts on the MCU stuff? Just continue with that? Wanna
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. I just think that I think Phase 5 is going to be great. I think there is some good stuff in Phase 4. Really looking forward to Spider-Man, really looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and to some extent looking forward to Black Panther, um just because I'm interested to see how they even do the movie.
Okay. Actually, do you
Um
want me to drop you a scoop on that one right now, actually?
of course.
So, from what I've heard from my buddy, Namor's gonna be in the movie, and,
How reliable is this, buddy?
it's Andy.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Keep
Andy,
going.
there's gonna be a lot of crazy stuff in there, and man, I feel like that movie had like something dropped on it. Like I hope they pull a Fast Seven where like the ending of it, where it's like a really emotional thing, and the tribute to Chadwick Boseman. That's where I think the movie's gonna actually like flourish there. And but there's gonna be a lot of surprises in there. And by the way, Doctor Doom's gonna be in the movie. Don't tell anybody. Shh.
W
As I posted on a podcast. Sorry. Okay.
well, uh, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Yeah.
Can't go
Anyway.
wrong.
Oh yeah, totally. We'll see about that. But anyway, yeah, so you want to talk about DC because I know you have like a couple more minutes before you got to come here. So like which DC films are you looking forward to the most? Cuz I'm actually way more excited for DC films than I was like a couple years back because again, I think the failure of Justice League kind of saved DC because they started making stuff like Aquaman, Birds of Prey, Shazam, like Joker, and you may not like one, two, or even all of those movies, but you can't say that they aren't like different from each other. And not to say they have like some formulas in there, but I feel like James Wan really did a great job with the first Aquaman. It's a little bit of a mess, but you know, and I really do adore Shazam and Birds of Prey way more than most people. And I thought Joker was okay. I thought it was good. I think it was like a great experiment, but you know, anyway, I don't want to take up too much of the space here because you have a lot to say about it. So
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to the upcoming slate. I think Aquaman 2 is going to be really fun. Looking forward to the Flash just because it's going to totally redefine the DCEU with time travel and setting up the multiverse
yeah,
and a send off to Ben Affleck. So I think that's going to be really great to see and going to be a very important film. So definitely looking forward to that. Black Adam obviously is going to be really cool to see, and then I'm most excited for the Batman. So I'm most excited for the Batman, and then I'll say the Flash, first ever solo Flash film. That's going to be a huge hit, and obviously. A reset of the DCEU and setting up the multiverse and Earth 2. That's going to be
there you
very,
go.
very cool and
Again,
very important. And then I also will say Wonder Woman 3. Wonder Woman 2 I felt
yeah.
was good.
Actually,
Not the best movie I've
actually,
ever seen.
can I say one thing? I
Yeah.
actually really adore Wonder Woman 1984 than most people. I actually thought the first Wonder Woman was okay. It kind of borrowed the plot from like Captain America and
Yes, it did.
gave it
Yeah.
a Zack Snyder flair. But I actually love Wonder Woman 1984 a lot better because I really love the heart and soul of it and Patty Jenkins just going all out for it. And though it didn't always work, I could appreciate it more as I watch it, and I really like that one. And by the way, dude, like Ezra Miller is such a gift to humanity as the Flash. Like I love that Ezra Miller Flash. He's so fucking funny. He's like the everyday person, and I just really like the Flash. And my favorite DC films coming up are James Gunn Suicide Squad,
Yep.
The Flash, and there's another one here, Shazam 2. Shazam 2, I'm very looking forward to. I'm not opposed to the Matt Reeves Batman film because I really do like Matt Reeves as a director, but I just, you know, I was just kind of, as much as I do like Batman, I kind of wish they could have like given like that theatrical slot to like a new character like Blue Beetle or Batgirl or Nightwing or somebody you haven't seen before because I feel like we've seen Batman a lot over the past couple of years and I feel like just for me that we could maybe take a break for that. But what do I know? I'm more I like to see more characters I haven't seen on screen before, which is why I'm kind of okay with like stuff like Shang-Chi and the Eternals. And I probably didn't make that more clear enough because I don't know. I'm bad at words, but hey, that's why I have a podcast. Anyway.
Well, here's the thing: is that I'm more invested in the DC universe than Marvel universe.
Oh, fair
So,
enough, dude.
Shang Chi, I would rate him as a C-list character. On the DC side, if we bring in a C-list character like I don't know, say Barbara Gordon, Batgirl,
Hmm.
I would be hyped as hell to see that film.
What you're actually
So
doing, by the way.
Well, allegedly, they've been saying they've been doing that since
Yeah, but
2016.
actually they got the, Bad Boys for Life guys who did actually the series Miss Marvel, so that must be, like, a good sign there.
Yes, yes, and I'm looking forward to that, and I think with the advent of HBO Max and DC and Disney Plus, one of the things that's great about both of those platforms is that it gives them the opportunity to cover more B, C, and D list characters
Yeah,
instead of just pumping out the A list films, the $200 million pictures into
totally.
theaters all the time. They can make money on doing a lower budget film and just put it
Mhm.
digital. I think that that's going to be great and work wonders for the DC universe and the DC EU going forward, particularly as it pertains to again those B and C list characters that
Yeah,
haven't gotten the light of day otherwise. So I really want to follow what HBO Max is working on as well on the television side, like you said, and have noticed acutely, I think, or adeptly rather, that on the Marvel side, the shows have really shined compared to the films. And my biggest
totally
gripe, I
agree.
think, and I think that DC can also do the same thing, and they can really shine on the film front, or excuse me, on the
But yeah.
television side, and I hope that they can do that.
You know what I think is gonna happen? I think the paradigm's gonna shift here. I think Marvel's gonna be really good at television. I think DC's gonna be really good at film. I think that those are gonna
Interesting.
flip around there. But
That would be very interesting.
I'd be pretty cool with that. So I know you gotta go in like 5 minutes here, but just one last topic I want to talk to you about is like what do you think of like the Zack Snyder fandom kind of like what do you think of like the splitting of the fan base between the Snyder fans and the DC fans there? And there's been a lot of like chaos over the last couple months. And I'm not saying it's like public there. DC fans are fucking awesome. They're great. My buddy Lewis is a big DC fan. I respect him. They're awesome. But what do you think of like this push and pull of like the restore the Snyderverse people and the just regular DC fans that want to see DC shine and stuff like that? It's like what do you think of that though? Like what is your opinion of that?
Yeah, so my feeling is that I actually really like that side of the fandom, and
Totally.
it is not without its faults, as other sides and other sort of sub elements of the fandom have their own faults as well. I think that they can be. My critique of them is that sometimes they can be a little bit out of touch and not reading the room. And what I mean by that is, I really only have one example. Is I've seen a couple of posts where DC will post something. It'll be like this actor passed away, like this legendary Warner Brothers actor who has done WB films for like 50 years passed away. They'll post about it on Twitter, like, let's remember this person. And then all the comments will be like, release the Snyder Cut Part 2,
Oh yeah.
assholes. And it's like, come on, read the room here a little bit. So at times they can be a bit aggressive, but you've got to give them credit. I mean, they
Oh
literally
totally.
made something happen that WB didn't want to do. They didn't want to make the Snyder Cut,
Yeah.
and the fans pushed so hard and they were so resilient amidst defeat for several years, and ultimately they were victorious in the end, which I loved. And the Snyder Cut version of Justice League is infinitely better than the Joss
Absolutely.
Whedon
A
version. So
plus.
I respect that side of the fandom, and I think that typically what people do is they will identify a few bad actors and really amplify those tweets or comments or DMs and try to cast judgment upon that entire subsect of the fandom, and I don't think that's fair to do. So
Oh
I certainly
totally.
don't have nearly as negative of a perception as of the Snyder Cut people as others, and I broadly agree with their aim of generating more Snyder Cut films and also more Snyderverse films rather, and reviving the
Yeah.
DCEU. And I also am a huge proponent of the Justice League Snyder
Okay.
cut of that film as well. So I sort of have that perspective on the Snyder Cut side of things.
Hey, that's pretty cool, man. And again, I'm not against Snyder people. I actually did like the Snyder cut film myself. I didn't really like Batman v Superman as much, but I do respect it for what it is there. And yeah, I'm kind of curious what they're gonna do with like this whole like WB merger again. Like it feels like they're like always like I feel like there's all these like fucking mergers that keep happening. It's like, oh, it's this guy, now it's this guy. It's fucking the Jason Carr, it's David Zaslav. It's just guys, just fucking pick one already. Just please, just stay in
Yeah,
one
yeah, I
fucking
know.
lane, player. But but whatever. Again, Warner Brothers is a great studio. I love them as a studio. I know like they get a lot of shit as of recently, but they've really produced a lot of good films. And I think both like the big companies and a couple of other people are gonna make. I think we're in a pretty solid like position there. So that's our episode right here.
They just need to get Chris Nolan back.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I hope I.
It's too late for it, but they
Oh
should have
yeah.
played that better.
Oh, actually, I think they'll get him back eventually. But yeah, any final thoughts before I wrap this up here? You know?
No, man, it was great to be here. Really enjoyed our conversation,
Yeah.
and thanks for having me on.
Again, man, we should do this again sometime if you have time to do it, right? You know?
Absolutely,
Cool. But
absolutely.
anyway, so that's our show here. This is a quick little episode here. Thank you, Slickmoff, for being here, and thank you for people for watching this. Just share, like, share, comment. Do whatever. So there we go. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.